Okay, welcome back to the channel. This is Roberto with Full Curl Precision again. Got some new toys in for doing the videos. I'll try messing around with it to see how it works out, if I like it, but if nothing else, it offers some nice lighting, makes it easier to read these things with less shadowing. So, I'll take a plus where it is. Besides, it wasn't that much money. Anyway, so for this comparison, we're doing the 22-250 versus the 223. Both really good varmint rounds, quite a bit different in their cartridge capacity in terms of their powder. But because of that, trying to make it as fair as possible. That's my thing. I try to use as much similarities. One thing I could use was the same length of barrel, same zero, so 100 yards, and same bullet because they're both a 223 caliber. But the one thing I couldn't do is use the same powder just because of the burn rates and in comparison to the size of the case capacity. It didn't really allow me to be able to make it fair, so I had to use different powders. So I chose powders that are fairly common that you could find and that would be used for these cartridges. So again, always trying to make it as fair as possible. It's not always optimal, but here it is. This is the way it is. So I did a max distance of 500 yards. So starting off, we'll go with the 223 Remington with a max CUP of 55,000. 26.5 grains of IMR 8202 XBR. Gets you actually quite a fast speed with the 55 grain Berger varmint of 3308. For as little of a case as that is, that's screaming fast. But then again, I also did give it, more of the bolt action target barrel, that of 24 inches. So it gave it plenty of burn. I'm not doing this out of an AR-15 type barrel where you're only looking at maybe 16 to 18 inches. I'm doing this with a proper barrel. So utilizing as much burn as possible. There you go. 3308, screaming fast. And, just as a general reference, 1337 for foot-pounds. Again, it doesn't mean all that much. It just gives you a general reference of what to expect out of it. With 100 yards zero, we jump straight over to 200 yards because now we can get some drops out of it. So at 200 yards, you get 2,410 feet per second with 710 foot-pounds and 2.4 inches of drop. At 300 yards, you get 2,025 feet per second, 501 foot-pounds, and 10.8 inches of drop. At 400 yards, you get 1,680 feet per second, 345 foot-pounds, and 27.9 inches of drop. At 500 yards, you get 1,384 feet per second, 234 foot-pounds, and 57.8 inches of drop. So it starts off screaming fast, but because of the type of bullets that are typically used in these calibers, they don't really hold their velocities very well. They tend to dip off pretty quick because, again, look at that BC. 0.210. So it's very low. Is it the worst that's out there? No. But it's also not that great. And really, these things are meant to be varmint bullets and not be shot much past 300 yards, period. But, since guys like to do different target shooting at different ranges, this kind of gives you an idea what you're going to expect out of it. So, again, using a really fast burn powder that fits the case is what I was going for. And kind of the same thing when it came to the 22-250, which honestly just absolutely destroys the 223 because it's not even a close comparison. But I was requested this by a viewer, so they asked for it, and they're getting it. So with a max CUP of totally higher, 65,000. So you have 10,000 CUP of pressure difference. So it's not even close. 38.3 grains as opposed to 26.5 grains. But because the powders have to be different, there's different volumes. Hodgdon Varget, which is a very common powder to get. So again, just like this is a common powder to get, so is this one. Gives you a max velocity of 3795. So you're talking about a difference of 400 feet per second. It actually, take that back, almost 500 feet per second. And a energy of 1759. So you got quite a jump in the energy difference. So these are, even though they're the same caliber and throwing the same bullets, they're not even in the same slot. These things are totally different because of the powder capacity, the cartridge development, everything. Don't get me wrong, they're both phenomenal for things like coyote, fox, and even wolf hunting. Because if you're looking to do something where you can shoot, and the bullet, it basically goes in, explodes, and does not exit, and doesn't damage the hide, this is perfect. You get a small pinhole through, it goes in, hits, does not exit, does not damage the hide on the opposite side. These are ideal for varmint hunting and fur hunting. But they are totally different velocities. I've heard some guys getting the 22-250 at over 4,000 feet per second. So, again, these aren't, even though they're the same caliber, they're not in the same realm. At 200 yards, you get 2,802 feet per second. So you're talking basically a difference of 400 feet per second straight off on 200 yards. An energy of 959. So yeah, you got a lot more energy. 2380 feet per second at 300 yards, 692. And notice the drops. At 200 yards, you get 1.3 inches of drop, and at 300 yards, you got 7 inches of drop. So off the bat, you're seeing significantly different drops, especially when you're going from 10.8 inches to 7 inches. Yeah, almost 4 inches of drop difference at 300 yards. That's a pretty good gap. At 400 yards, you got 1,997 feet per second, 487 foot-pounds, and 19 inches of drop, as opposed to 27.9 inches of drop. So 8 inches of difference. Again, you're seeing the gap open up. 500 yards, 1,654 feet per second, 334 foot-pounds, and 40.1 inches of drop. Look at that. Basically 18 inches of spread at 500 yards. That's like the length of the tip of your hand down to your elbow for the average man. For the average guy who stands between 5'9" and 6 foot, most of the time from the tip of their hand to the elbow is about 18 inches. That's a big drop. Now, I know you can dial it. I get that. If you have the right scope, it's not enough to be able to not dial. But as a natural trajectory, without any sort of compensation or anything, 18 inches is a significant difference in trajectory. So, while they share a lot of similarities, they're just not even in the same ballpark. So, this is like, the best way I can put it is it's like a Dodge Demon versus a Mazda Miata. It's not even close as far as the overall power. So, there you go. Simple little comparison. I will say this, though. If you are getting into target shooting and varmint hunting and things like that, or you want a small, light caliber, light recoiling cartridge that you can hunt, take a youth hunt on for even like deer, you can get some decent construction bullets. 223 is not a bad option. As long as you're staying within reasonable range, I'd say stay within 200 yards. If you're staying within 200 yards, a 223 is going to be plenty adequate on medium game like pronghorn, whitetail, and even mule deer. Some people have taken elk with them. Whatever, they're their own boss and they can do whatever they want. I personally wouldn't do it. I don't feel comfortable doing it. It's not because I can't place that shot, but I just feel like it wouldn't be it's not truly ethical on large game, especially when different factors come into consideration. I feel like you should be really sticking with a minimum of a 27 caliber when you start crossing in over into large game like elk, moose, so on and so forth. But that's my opinion. You can have yours. I'm not going to argue with you or downgrade you just because you want to do that, but that's just me. If you have a different experience with those, great. Good for you. I'm happy for you, and I mean that genuinely. I just know for myself and my mindset, I prefer to have a larger caliber for larger game. So that's what I have for tonight. Please like, subscribe, share. I am going to be putting out another one tonight about the 7 WSM versus the 7 Short Action Ultra Mag. It's close, but you know what? It's also not. All right, we'll see you then.